Owen's joining us for business. We got scandals in Japan, make or break vote for a certain Berlusconi. Loads going on for the markets today.
Loads going on for the markets, Stuart. And guess what? Italian borrowing costs just gone up to a new record. Just coming in on the news wires this morning, Italian 10-year bond yields up to 6.73%. That is a new record compared to yesterday. Despite all that, the markets have opened fairly positively this Tuesday morning. You can see there London, Paris just a little bit flat. The DAX in Frankfurt marginally up around 0.2%. And there Italy's FTSE MIB in Milan. You can see they're opening up as well. Expect that to change though as those borrowing costs, as investors take the full impact of those increased borrowing costs for Italy on the day of that crucial vote. Asia, the Nikkei closing down 1.3%. That was largely in the wake of fresh revelations about the Olympus camera scandal. The Nikkei down, as I say, closing down around 1.3%. Olympus shares closing down nearly 30% as well.
So while we're talking markets, a bit of a dip for Marks and Spencer's before its much anticipated return to France. You got some earnings for us?
That's right, just a few for you. We'll get the earnings board up for you. Marks and Spencer's first half profits down some 10% to just over £315 million there. Sales of food actually up, so it's Stuart who's obviously buying his shortbread and his chutney and so on the way on his return trips to the UK that's holding things up.
Did at the weekend, not shortbread, but other things.
It's actually thin margins as well for M&S, just to try and stay competitive among rising costs and a bit of rising inflation in the UK. You can see there are a few other earnings as well. Munich Re, their profits down some 63%. Toyota in Japan, first half profits hit at the ongoing fallout of the tsunami, and Vodafone at the bottom there, profits for the first half up by 41%. Now, the other big earnings story out this Tuesday is Société Générale, the French bank. Its profits fell by a third in the last quarter, according to results just in. It also took a pre-tax write-down as the French bank unwinds its position on Greek sovereign debt. Remember, Société Générale is one of the most exposed banks. Let's get some more on this from Philippe Baudreau. He's a vice president at PIMCO's UK office in London. PIMCO, remember, the world's largest bond dealer. Philippe, good morning to you, and thanks very much for joining us. You'll have probably seen those numbers from Société Générale. Let's just get your take on those first of all. Do you think this company is doing enough to get its house in order with that write-down?
Well, listen, I think that, obviously now that the PSI2 for Greece, which is the haircut that will be accepted by the private sector, has been agreed, you're seeing that all the banks are recognizing those losses in their accounts. So I don't think there's a surprise there. You saw BNP last week as well that marked its Greek government bonds at 40 cents on the dollar. And now you're seeing, SocGen do the same, and you'll see, later in the week that Crédit Agricole will do the same as well. So are other European banks. So I think that's a progress in the sense that those losses are now being recognized by opposition to not being recognized. Are they doing enough to put their house in order? I think that a lot of what's going on, is not exactly in their hands. You mentioned the Italian yields, and that clearly has a much bigger impact on financial stability than anything else in terms of micro trends or earnings releases today.
Philip, we've also seen the EFSF auction €3 billion to support the Irish bailout. Very unimpressive numbers and a high yield as well. Not a great advert, is it, for what's supposed to be the saviour of Europe?
Yeah, I think that's got to be a concern. I mean, last auction was in June and was met with very strong demand, and with a spread I think was plus 17, and yesterday was 107. So obviously, market conditions have certainly deteriorated dramatically since June, and the FSF is not immune from that trend, and that's been reflected in fairly poor demand and a higher yield for these bonds yesterday. And yes, it is a concern because they have a lot of issuance to do to fund that vehicle and help other countries.
So would you buy into the EFSF?
Well, I think we're quite cautious right now on the developments in the Eurozone. Many announcements were made last week as part of the Euro Summit. Many promises were made. Very little has been delivered so far in terms of hard cash and hard facts. And I think what the market is looking for when they think of the EFSF is to get much more detailed information in terms of the mechanisms through which it can support other countries, and then make an assessment on whether it can work or not. But right now, there's just a big number that's been thrown out there, but very little flesh put on it.
And
just why people are not really buying into it.
Just very briefly, Philippe, we'll put you on the spot one more time. Is Italy next for a bailout?
Well, I think that Italy is getting in that danger zone. We've seen before that Greece and Portugal moved into the rescue zone when they got around 7% yields. So they are at a critical juncture. What we think is that the ECB is pretty much the only game in town, and that it's going to have to do a lot more to stabilize Italy and bring those spreads in, because Italy is a much bigger problem than Greece and Portugal in terms of the size of that market. So something probably different needs to happen there in terms of policy response.
Okay. Philippe, you've summed everything up for us, I think, there. Fantastic stuff. Philippe Bourdieu, Vice President at PIMCO. Thanks very much. Bit more company news for you now then. Japanese camera maker Olympus has publicly admitted for the first time a major fraud that led to the firing of its chief executive. The firm held a news conference to discuss how the proceeds of a series of deals in the 90s were used to cover investment losses. Olympus has sacked its executive vice president, the latest board member to go, following the resignation of the company president, Michael Woodford, who blew the whistle on the scandal.
And vast amounts of shale oil have been discovered in Argentina. Spanish energy company Repsol uncovered the equivalent of nearly 1 billion barrels while exploring what's known locally as the Dead Cow Basin. The company says the discovery has increased its proven reserves by 1/3 to 3 billion barrels of crude worldwide.
Finally, let modern warfare begin. The battle for computer games market back on. The release of the latest in Call of Duty series generates the kind of red carpet fervour you'd normally get for Hollywood blockbusters. And the latest, no exception, is expected to set new records in a market that's fast leaving cinema obsolete.
Selling like hotcakes. Fans lined up to get their hands on the latest Call of Duty video game. Stores across the globe opened at midnight to sell Modern Warfare 3.
Go get him, noob.
Last year, Call of Duty Black Ops topped $1 billion in sales, and industry experts think this latest version can top that.
Last year was the biggest entertainment launch, went on to be the biggest game of all time. And of course, we've got great hopes for this year. Some of our retail feedback, where we take pre-orders of the game, and the pre-orders are looking really strong.
Move over Hollywood. Only 10 movies, including Avatar and Titanic, have grossed over $1 billion in worldwide ticket sales.
I've seen it. I know that it's like amazing graphics. I know that the last Call of Duty game grossed more than Titanic, which is incredible.
So fired up, let's do this! Okay.
On average, more than 19 million people play Call of Duty online each month, and over 6.5 million play it each day. With fans like that, parent company Activision Blizzard is hoping for strong holiday sales.
I know I do sound a bit old now, but you think it looks like a movie, doesn't it? I
mean, it does look like a movie.
Computer games, movies, there's no distinction between them anymore. That is expected to be a big seller. Of course, just time to remind you where the yield on Italian 10-year bonds up to a new Euro-era high, more than 6.7%. That, of course, on the day that Italy votes pretty much on the future of Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi. If you want to get in touch, let me know what your thoughts are on Italy. Is this country heading for a new bailout? My Twitter details are on your screen in front of you, at OwenFrance24. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it.
If you're sounding old, I'm usually sounding even older. That's all we can say. Claire's here. Latest headlines after the weather forecast. Do stay with us.